Сегодня находимся в Everglades Holiday Парк.
Yes, dear, no, dear, you're right, I'm wrong. Here is my wallet, you look good in everything. Flowers every 2 weeks from the florist. Yeah. Supermarket with cheapskates. 5 good vacations a year, not some smelly alligator pin before Lauderdale. Your game. A little bit of bling from time to time, and if it fills, I buy you a puppy. I walk it, I bathe it, I feed it, I clean up after my training. All you do is cuddle and put pictures on Instagram. It's pretty close. No questions? None of the annoying questions I ask all the time? Like, why don't they attack you? They always sound disappointed too. Like, yes, why don't they? They're not moving. And they think they're motionless in their seat. Oh, is that one real? Are they on drugs? Are you on drugs? Oh, why is the water yellow? Is that gator pee? Is that where Gatorade comes from? Did you pee in that water? Do you really run zigzag? You're gonna be. What do you feel? Are you the guy that got picked today? All those questions? Good. We're along just fine. All right, how was the airboat ride? That's Darth Gator. He's brand new. I gotta keep up to speed with this. All right, before we get started, I do want to explain a few things about these alligators I use in my gator shows. All the gators you see in this pit are what's known as nuisance alligators, especially you. That means they all came from somebody's backyard, ponds, canals, swimming pool. It's an explosion of energy. Massive explosion. There it is. Wow. These guys don't do a whole lot of that stuff. They don't do that because almost every gator in this pit has been here long enough to realize that I'm not going to hurt them. And once that kind of settles in, there is no real motivation to make these huge explosive movements they're so famous for. Every time you see a wild alligator, or crocodile for that matter, making those explosive movements, that is absolutely exhausting for the animal. These guys are ectothermic or cold-blooded, so they only really have a handful of those moves in before their bodies begin to build up with lactic acid, and eventually they can barely move. So if these guys all know that the worst possible outcome that could ever happen is me sitting in the back of the for about 10 minutes telling some really bad jokes, it's not worth fighting me all out for the next 15 minutes, then being totally exhausted for the next hour or two while the lactic acid slowly remetabolizes. Just not worth the trade-off. If there's one thing they're good at, besides really good, it's conserving energy. You look at a gator like Stumpy or Godzilla or Swamp Thing here, these guys could easily go 4 or 5 months with no food at all. This is what they do for a living. They're really, really good at it. That doesn't mean they love me and we're friends and we take windy walks together at night. Trust me, Swamp Thing doesn't love me. Not like he used to. I still remember a time when you and I would just... We used to sit and talk for hours. Now it's like we don't even communicate. Look, even now, I try to reach out and you withdraw. He said, I can't fix it if I don't know what's broken. Please say something. I'm giving up on you. You know what the really sad part is? The sad part is I have these conversations with Swamp Thing when nobody else is even here. Now again, they don't like me. They obviously don't really dislike me. This is eerily like my parents' house around Christmas time. Everybody just kind of tolerates me because they feel obligated. Now I do have a certain rotation system I use to try to make sure each gator only does one show throughout the day. Mac, have a Snickers. What do you want, a shot at the title? I ain't scared of you, princess. I brought you in this pit and I'll take you out. I know that noise sounds scary. To me, it sounds like a fart. It is Hector's show. I don't know if I can get Hector. Slow down, you pull a hamstring. Zeus, you gotta back up, son. Come on, baby. Come on, back it up. Come on, back it up. Back it up. No more. Thank you, sir. Stop it. Love me. Sorry, Swamp Thing. Maybe you should have put a ring on it. Come on, Hector. Give me a hard time, kid. Well, that guy must have big hands. I'll be honest, this kid has been dead for 2 weeks. Hey, until he starts to stink, I'm going to keep using him. Playing dead is Hector's best trick. Come on, chill down, kid. Now, if you're a Seminole warrior, let's say back in the 1800s, and you're out catching alligators, you're doing that to feed your family, but you always want to catch them alive. Alligator meat does spoil very quickly in the hot Florida sun. So the first thing you'd want to do, obviously, is tie the jaws shut. A gator this size has about 2,000 pounds of crushing power per square inch in the jaws. It's enough to crush any bone in your body. Tying them by yourself could be a little challenging. You do need 2 hands. Just tie a good knot, and something has to hold the mouth closed while you're doing that, but you risk losing your fingers in the process. So the Seminoles came up with a technique we now refer to as bulldogging, holding the jaws closed with your chin in your chest. And for your hands up, give you time to take out leather or rope and tie a knot. If you want to get a picture, wait till both arms go out to the side, or you see the blood pouring down my throat. Usually where I tell the kids to stay in school. Okay, take your pictures quickly. Take out a rope, a couple of wraps, you tie a knot, and you have yourself a cotton-tied alligator. Now, judging by the complete lack of applause, I'm assuming you people not really impressed with me and the alligator. That is very touching. There's really nothing better for my ego than pity applause. If you're looking for me after this show, I'll be checking into therapy. I will try to redeem myself in a minute. In the meantime, we're going to touch on a few different parts of the alligator's anatomy. The eyes of an alligator, very well protected, very deep eye sockets. Anything were to threaten those eyes, they simply drop to the bottom of the eye sockets out of the way of harm. These bony, leathery eyelids come down to help protect them. Lower eyelids like you and I have, and he also has that third eyelid, which is called a nictitating membrane. Nictitating membrane. A little transparent lens you may have just seen move from front to back and back to front. That acts to clean dust and debris away from the eyes, and also kind of acts as a pair of goggles for the alligator to walk. Behind the eyes, alligator's ears. Little flaps right there. Even with these small ears, they still hear just about as well as you and I on land. They also hear very well in the water. Between the ears, behind the eyes, located about there, alligator's brain. Alligator's brain is about the size of my thumb. It's being generous. Only one animal in the entire world has a smaller brain to body size ratio, and of course is the alligator wrestler. I still don't get that joke. No, I'm going to figure it out. I mean, probably not today, but I'll figure it out. Now, the bony plates you see all over the back, they're called scutes. They're solid bone osteoderms. They do 2 things for the alligator. Number 1, it is armor plating. Protects them from predators and other alligators during the territorial and mating disputes. It also acts as a solar panel. These alligators will lay out in the sun with that dark black skin. The sun beats down, heats up that skin, and those scutes, which are all covered with little blood vessels. The blood will heat up, circulate through the body, increasing the energy and metabolism. You'll notice I said the skin was black and not green. Almost every sign, t-shirt, cartoon, painting, stuffed animal, rubber toy, high school, college mascot you've ever seen of an alligator, almost always green. 80 teeth. He's got 40 teeth on top and 40 teeth on the bottom. If you look in the back of his throat, he usually has little to no throat opening. He has an oversized palatal valve or glottis, which allows him to go underwater, capture food without drowning. He would usually then surface above the water to swallow that food. To make it look dangerous sometimes. He's a bit of a chauffeur. You do realize without me, he'd be a suitcase, right? By the way, you're 0 for 2 in applause. This is like the best work. Alright, last trick we're going to do. Yes, more pity applause. We'll both be in therapy after this one. Last trick's called the face-off because if by chance I do mess up, this one also going to show you exactly what a bachelor's degree in psychology is now worth from the University of Massachusetts. My parents wasted a lot of money on college. They don't really appreciate the fact that I make bad jokes about it getting an alligator pit. I'm 50 years old. My dad's still telling me to give him his money. We were so close to making it. It's the last trick. It's the last trick. drugs are wearing off. I don't know what to do. Sometimes people call. That's enough of that stuff. Well, the alligator, that's probably the shit for me. Probably for Hector too. Come on, big out there. Go ahead. Hey, I like the way you walk, girl. $50 says you don't make the water. I'll make it 100. But it's amazing how fast it is, isn't it? Wow. See, now at least you can really appreciate why you have to run zigzag. Yeah, otherwise they would never catch you. They started that whole thing. You ever heard of that? Chase by an alligator run zigzag? That's the dumbest thing I ever heard of. It's not your fault. They've been pushing that down here for 50 years. Listen, don't run zigzag, just run. I mean, if you're going to do anything, trip the kids and you walk away with dignity. Not your own kids if you can help it. But if it comes down to it, come on, man. They're smaller and faster than we are. They got a much better chance. Especially if you're on vacation. This kid is so hopped up at all. Never mind out in the middle of the field. It's always somebody named Boomer or Cletus and Bubba. Yeah, a whole lot of bubbles get hit. Ain't that right, Bubba? And the sad part is, look at her face. She's going to call you Bubba for the next 6 months. Sorry, John. Comedy, son, that's the best joke of the whole show. You feel free to use that one yourself. When you do head out, you want to head out to my left. You're right, you're going to circle on back. If you want to stop at the photo booth, the whole baby alligator, that's the 2 white tents right behind you. If you get wet, it's just keep rain.